Um, in today's time where data connectivity is unparalleled, it gives us access to so much more online news. And at the same time, there is so much awareness about fake news. The, things have drastically transformed for us, right? A dissemination of news itself has transformed. In such a time where awareness is there, do we see misinformation having come down, or does the confluence of growing AI usage and online news consumption breathe new life into this problem of fake news? In an age where AI is increasingly woven into the fabric of our digital experiences, and online news consumption does, has become a part of our daily life, can AI be a double-edged sword? That's really the question that we're going to tackle right now. Gaurav, would you like to start by answering that question?
Sure. So, I mean, misinformation, disinformation has been there for long, right? It's only amplified with time. With AI kicking in, you know, it's so much more easier to create any sort of content, right? And if your intent is malicious, there are no limits to that, right? So, I mean, it's a no-brainer. This menace of misinformation, disinformation, deep fakes, all of it is going to amplify many a times, right? And we have to be very, very careful of what we consume. We, as part of media, it is our duty, you know, to put in checks and balances of separating the right from the wrong.
Deepit, do you think this technology poses a greater challenge, or does it have the potential to mitigate the risk?
I think this is like all kinds of technology. Like I come from a technology kind of background, having studied computer science long back, and so like most security issues of such kinds, even when we were like 10 years ago, there were antiviruses, and then there are viruses who used to you know break down all firewalls, right? So I think this is going to be a chicken and egg going forward. So it'll continue, like you keep outsmarting the other party. So I don't think we should be thinking that technology will not, or the AI developments or AI powered technology will not help us detect deepfakes, but then there'll be something else which will break out. So I think it will be a constant management of and balancing act. So I think generally online trust generally is very, very broken, and that's where I think brands emerge and trust on brands emerge. And all of us represent different kinds of brands. So I think trust is a big problem for all of us to kind of make sure that it doesn't get diluted in this process.
Rakesh, would you like to share your thoughts on how can how can AI be leveraged to help curb false information?
Yeah, like like you rightly put at the beginning, it's a double-edged sword. Partly because the AI models are not perfect in the first place. There's so much hallucination, and no, I don't think there is a silver bullet solution to this. So a lot of stakeholders need to come together at an individual level, at a systemic level. But what I can say is, at least on the fact-checking ecosystem front. So for instance, we have a global standard called claim review. So a lot of the fact checkers who do daily fact-checking work do mark up their fact checks using this standard. So at least at a technology level, we have, I think last count we had close to 300,000 fact checks that are marked up using this standard. Now, for example, in-house we built using generative AI, a tool that uses the power of these 300,000 fact checks so that there is zero hallucination. Now, it is now possible because of obviously AI, so that reduces the risk of hallucination and discovery of these fact checks. But at the same time, so we are living in a very small world. Our ecosystem is very small. But if you look at the general public, unless it becomes mainstream, while the awareness has become mainstream, whether you believe in something or not is driven by a lot of other factors. So it's not just, awareness of some misinformation exists. So your consumption, your belief, your trust is dependent on, your political ideology, various other factors. So I think removing that behavioral aspect and only looking at a technology solution is not going to work. Of course, technology can be a force multiplier because at least in our work, we've seen multiple times that there is a behavior shift. So constantly you tell somebody what you're sharing is not right, look at sources. There is definitely a shift in most people. I wouldn't say all of them, most people. So while that is there, like I said, it is not a silver bullet solution, a few of us sitting in the room can't solve it. So it has to be systemic at one level, individual, academia. So all of us have to come together.
And like what Rakesh mentioned, it's undeniable that the awareness about fake news has definitely increased. And has consumption of news have the consumption habits changed based on that, Varun?
I'll answer the entire fake news phenomena with two examples, which will put forward the point that I want to put forward. One was a year and a half back, I was in a previous organization, and one fine morning I had around 50 missed calls because I had not seen my phone. And people picked up the phone and said, MDH owner Masheji, is he no more? Because somebody had put one tweet saying that, right? And I immediately called up the family of Masheji because I was known to him, and he was very much alive. So then people went back, and all news channels had to write a scroll saying he's very much alive. So fake news has been there for donkey long years, right? So people have to trust brands, and that is where brands are coming into foray. People who trust a certain brand, they will come and first get a complete confirmation and then they talk. And second is the yesterday parliament intrusion which happened, right? There were, of course, a lot of phones which were coming because people were on the move and they got to know, they wanted to know how serious it was. Our traction on our YouTube live channel improved by millions. We had around 3,000, 4,000 people at one go seeing, and so were other of the platforms, whether it is Jagran or anywhere. So what is happening is, people now are not interested in a rookie channel which has no credibility and is going back to the channels they believe in, whether it is Inshorts, whether it's us, whether it's anybody. So now even the awareness of normal people who want to consume news, they know where to consume it from. So I don't think there is a great danger of it. Yes, some of it will be there. Even the political parties put forward a lot of the content during elections, but people are smart enough now.
But Rakesh, if you could chip in, like what he said, people are smart enough, but can people differentiate between, reliable and unreliable sources of information now?
It depends on, who you are, what you have been fed. So since because we are a room full of media professionals, so how many of you celebrated the World Students' Day last month? So almost all news media has written about it year after year, starting from 2010, even this year, if I'm right. Saying October 15th, birthday of late APJ Abdul Kalam is celebrated as the World Students' Day. UN declared it. To our surprise, so this came about in our, we run a tip line on WhatsApp, asking, is it true? So to our utter disbelief, we found that starting 2010, almost every media house in this country has written this article year after year for 13 long years saying the UN has declared. So much to such extent that even the Vice President of India, cabinet ministers referred to this in their press releases. But the fact of the matter is nothing of that sort. The UN never declared it. It's just a random blog started it in 2010 and the hoax continued. You can search on the internet, you'll get. And somebody wrote a Wikipedia entry based on these news articles. So the whole issue of trust and brand, if you see, so this may be a very innocuous example, not very harmful and all that, but it does raise a very important point of, especially with the advent of digital in news ecosystem, the gatekeeping, obviously, everybody knows it's, speed is now the ultimate thing. To come back to your question, are people more equipped? To an extent, yes. But like I said, it all depends on, so for instance, when we do sessions, when we talk to people, how do you encounter this? How do you tackle this problem? So in any WhatsApp group, I'm sure, 90% are silent spectators. The rest of the 10% are the active ones who keep sharing every day. So asking for sources, I think, is one of the best ways of countering misinformation. But people have learned tricks like Deepit was saying. So people have started adding some random source. So, the source need not be credible. So while that is there, I think asking for sources, telling them how to differentiate between what looks like a very unbelievable thing. Of course, miracles do happen, but not every day. So these are some things that we can do. I think it has nothing to do with education. So a lot of us think that it has to do with digital awareness, education, and so on and so forth. Not really. I think a lot of it has to do with who we are going around. And the more we are in echo chambers, the more we are prone to misinformation. So the only way to come out of this is, for instance, I tell my team, go follow everybody on Twitter, left, right, center, all kinds of ideologies. That's the only way to come out of, what you have created as an echo chamber and falling prey to misinformation.
So he says it has nothing to do with education. But sir, would you like to say what role does media literacy play here in making people more aware about it?
So that's the only way, right? How do you teach people that there is a lot of misinformation which is coming across, right? As media organizations, like I said, we have to be responsible. It is our duty to tell people, whatever they are consuming, it has to be fact-checked as well, right? Fact-check, when I say, I don't say like a literal fact-check, but in the sense, getting your news from the right source, right? Traditional sources obviously help a lot, but it's not that the traditional sources don't make a mistake, but at least they admit, right? At least there is some clarification that goes out. There's something that comes up and tells you, hey, there was an honest mistake, and this is how we've corrected and all, right? I'll tell you what we do. We run a lot of media literacy programs. Now, media literacy programs across a number of topics, right? We have a WhatsApp tip line. Most fact checkers do, right? So we run a fact checking website, vishwasnews.com, right? Part of the portfolio is that there is a WhatsApp number. It's a Vishwas News tip line number. You have a question, you doubt something, you just message the link to us and we'll come back to you with a fact check, right? Anything which is trending on social media, right, which we know is not right, we do a fact check and put it on the public domain, right? So a lot of things, we take it very seriously. We owe it to our users, people who've been following us for, we've been a brand for 80 years, right? The digitals come in about 25 years ago and all of that. But to sustain and to, ensure that people come back to us, it's the basic hygiene that we have to take care of. So media literacy, and also, you have to understand, people consuming you come from a very varied, strata. There are evolved audiences who know कि यार ये ठीक हो ही नहीं सकता, right? What are we talking about, right? And it seems like information that's not been put together or been put there for for some malicious intent. And then there are people who will just believe whatever it is being forwarded to them, right? WhatsApp, now we call it WhatsApp University for a reason, right? The amount of information, and again, coming back to a personal example, my dad, like 5 years back, would, believe everything and anything that would come on the WhatsApp. And it's only, when he talks and you have to correct him, hey, you'll have to check for it and not believe whatever's coming your way. So I think everybody, who's running a media should be responsible enough to put in the source of the news and also, run some program or the other, some, editorial programs where it teaches you, how do you do a basic fact check on when something's coming up your way.
But what about social media? A lot of information today is disseminated on social media. You mentioned about how media platforms should themselves do this. What about social media?
Can you control it? You cannot control it.
No,
right?
I'm asking, can they implement some policy?
So they do, so we work very closely with Meta, we work very closely with Google as well, right? So from the intent is there, but the effort and the resources required, yes, there is a shortage there. There's lots more that could have been done. The government itself has become hyperactive, right? With the recent defects that have happened, there are policies which are coming in and everybody is talking about it. So as we go along with the time, I think the policies are going to get stricter and there are going to be penalties on the platforms as well. It's not that there are not at the moment. They are serious. The public policy teams have been working in overdrive, right? It's not that but it's just the amount of information on the social media is huge, right? How do you even filter out? So Facebook has a very well settled algorithm which kind of takes down anything which seems, no, which doesn't seem right, gets over to the, in a pipe which is distributed to different fact checkers across the country. And depending on if it is right, as in the news is okay, it goes back in the, in the distribution, and if it is not, it's kind of singled out or the distribution's controlled. Right? So they're doing what they do, but again, I think it's just the huge number that comes in terms of the information that goes up there. It becomes a challenge in terms of handling. And intent, along with, putting in a little more resources will help.
Deepit, what do you think? Should the government be involved in addressing this issue?
All tough questions coming to. Yeah, so I think in general, I strongly believe that in a democratic society, there is a lot of space for self-regulation. And like even bodies like BCCI, right, like which is a very, very high revenue generating body, like time and again, despite people feeling that it is mismanaged, etc., court interventions, etc., it has always led to a conclusion that it should be a self-regulating body, right? So similarly, all self-regulating bodies in the media, social media space, OTT space, mostly I would say are very, very well self-governing bodies by and large. And obviously like people can improve, but by and large they are very governed very, very well. So I don't see why and their interaction with the government is also very, very like, I don't think there is much gap in understanding here. And government also has time and again come multiple closed door and open door forums and said that they support self-regulation in most sectors, right? So I don't see that anyway in any situation, whatever needs to happen versus what is happening is deviating from what the industry wants, what the self-regulating bodies want, and what the government wants. I think it's all kind of converging in the interest of the society at large.
And misinformation often transcends borders. Can countries collaborate internationally to address this issue together? Varun, would you like to?
Pun intended, today war sells. And that is where some channels have made a living out of it. So countries, no countries, I still feel it is the source from which you consume news is becoming more and more important. That is why whether you're seeing traditional or the new age media, they're putting a lot of efforts on building a product where people are going back to them again and again. So whatever we might say, if I have to consume a news and if I want to know what is the reality, I will go to a trusted resource. And likewise, I want to believe that at least 80% of the population is doing the same. The rest 20, of course, will fall in plaque. Self-regulation, dysregulation, you also know and I also know, majority of the fake news comes during elections. And who does it? The guys you are wanting the regulation from. So it itself, I'm saying it's the public awareness. We might do whatever, but it is the guy who's coming and wanting to consume from a source will decide whether the fake news will exist or not. Whether it is India, Pakistan, we do a lot of this India-Pakistan during cricket matches and all. We get a leading channel from there, collaborate together and all. But the point is that at the end of the day, who defines what is fake news for them? For certain individuals, that fake news is a real news, and for us, it might be the fake news. So today, I'm saying the only distinction which I feel going forward, whether it is, I'll give you a small example which will. Israel, somebody was saying during the Hamas war, so many are dead. The other channel said so many are dead. The internet said so many are dead. Who knows how many were dead because there was no official figure which has come till date. So it's up to you to believe which medium to believe. But you can't really blame the publishers for spreading it. I'm talking of publishers which are well-known publishers. We can all come together probably as a body and tell people to consume from an authentic source which can be theirs or anybody else. That's the only thing I think we can do to curb this menace.
In the digital space, news publishers are competing with all kinds of other mediums like influencers, the smaller players, regional players. the whole game is very different in the digital space. Gaurav, so if you could tell me, how does the news industry in general beat the algorithms and ensure that your information is out there and is accessible for people?
Yeah, it's become a very tough business if you ask me, right? I mean, think of digital news publishers. They are sandwiched between the big tech, which is the Google and Facebooks of the world, and then there is the whole influencer piece which is coming, right? All of us, right? They are funded, largely advertiser-funded programs, right? The influencers get their money from the brands, and so does Google, Meta. They earn from the advertising. So where does it leave publisher? Now, publisher is the one who's putting in all the resources, putting in checks and balances, is answerable to all the government questions that come in terms of, and also answerable to your own audiences, right, first and foremost. So, and there's a huge cost of running that business. Now, while the advantage is being given to the big tech in terms of the ROI that they generate, and rightly so. I mean, the amount of consolidated audiences on the platforms is many times over for most of, compared to most of us. So it is a difficult business. Over the last 2 years, if you see, Google's been consolidating the traffic also, right? But during the time of pandemic till 2021, the growth was phenomenal across each publisher, at least on the digital platforms. And then it kind of plateaued for a few months, and then it started to come down, right? And it's come down. We were doing an analysis for top 20 news and information players on as per Comscore. I think 18 of us have degrown between -5 to -40%. That's the kind of degrowth that has happened, right? Now, when you deep dive, you probably find, yes, there is a shift. People had a lot of time. In the COVID, they were surfing much more, and now they are not. For some of the newspaper, and also the consumption habit, right? From text to video has also happened, right? So maybe there's another big product, which is YouTube, who's come into the play and say, yaar, news dekhni hai, I would rather go to the YouTube rather than going on to any TV channel or coming onto a news publisher. Third is that Google changes its algorithm. All of us are very heavily dependent on Google. 60 to 70% of our traffic is organic traffic, which is largely driven by search. Now, any change in the algorithm will impact us. Google till about an year back, year and a half back, used to do one update in few months. Now there's an update every few weeks. By the time you understand what this update is about and you feel the impact, it has already issued a new algorithm, right? So very difficult. I mean, there is no real answer to this apart from the, you're maintaining your hygiene and keep doing the content that is adding value to people's life. Do not break that trust. Do not get into the sensationalism and the clickbait piece. That's what we look at when we do our business, right?
The whole news industry in general today faces a perception issue. As the awareness about fake news has increased, there's a lot more skepticism associated with news, right? How does the industry overall deal with that? Deepit, would you like to share?
I think adding to what Gaurav said and what others on the panel have already said, I think one thing that we need to understand is that there are the digital space, as all of us would want it, it's a kind of a slightly free space, and no one wants this to be over-regulated because it impacts everyone's businesses if that becomes over-regulated. At the same time, we are facing all of these issues which we talked about, right? So I think what is, from our point of view, like a company like ours, where we represent Inshorts, Public, both are information-oriented platforms. One is more like a open platform where anybody could come, and one is a more curated platform, right? So in both cases, what we see, which is a very important enabler, and similarly, the trends we are seeing on platforms like WhatsApp as well, when they have launched things like WhatsApp channels. So the common theme that is emerging across social media channels, etc., is that even social media feels, I think there is no incentive for social media to be spreading fake stuff over a longer period of time. Like in a short period of time, it might be very, very beneficial, but over longer periods of time, it doesn't help anybody. So what we have done in our company, for example, is even on Public, which is a very open platform, there is no creator on the platform who is at least not phone number verified, right? And our algorithms are designed in a way that it is verification linked distribution, right? So if you are a verified person, the law of the land states that free speech is only guaranteed to citizens of India, right? If you can't even ascertain online that you are a citizen of India, or you can't even give enough information that it can be ascertained later that whether you were a bot or you were a citizen of India, then unfortunately, I don't think bots have rights in India right now, right? I don't endorse it at all. So online trust and online identity is the root, because if you want to hold someone accountable, if there are these fake news websites which are circulating on social media, how do you hold them accountable? You will go to Facebook, okay, this channel is spreading fake news. Facebook will say, I don't have any information about who is running it, right? I can just deactivate this page, but what stops that same agent or same agency to again start another page? So ultimately, traceability is very, very important, and identity is very, very important. And on the other side, if someone is a citizen of India and has said whatever outrageous things to a certain constituent or certain group of people, and the law of the land and the court system and everything thinks that it is well within the person's rights, I don't think, and the civil society and the government and the regulatory bodies, everyone should stand together with that person. But we should not tolerate freedom of expression for bots, or whether we don't even know whether they are bots or not.
Right.
And the trolls as well.
Yeah.
Varun, this perception issue that I was talking about, how does that eventually impact revenue?
See, news per se, if the perception is not there, the brand will not grow at all. I'll give you a small example. We are the newest kid on the block when it comes to Bharat Express and the digital platforms. Our point is very clear. We are not in the rat race of breaking news, because majority mistakes happen in traditional media when you go for a breaking news. So we confirm and then we put, because news per se, nobody has a fixed audience. People come, people go, people come, people go. So that is one part. Secondly, trust builds over a period of time. You cannot expect things to happen just in one go. Third, you have to do public awareness campaigns or stories, which are missing in today's world. We do it in plethora. That is where the audiences come back to us again and again. And we have our own mechanisms. It's simple. If I want to know whether my particular stories are doing well or not, I put a phone number of them and say people should come back and contribute. I get to know by the end of the program how many people have watched and where are they from. So there are different ways of looking at it, but this is a misnomer when people say that that people don't trust news. If that was not the case, then so many news channels, so many publications, so many of us would have shut down our shops. That is few of them which people have started realizing. I'll give you a small example. Facebook doesn't carry news channels anymore, any of us, right? It has not made a difference to me. But as an industry, have we come together and gone to Google and said that you have to pay me for the content you take on your platforms? No. The day we start doing that, we will have a more richer content and all industry will grow at a better pace than what we are growing right now.
Rakesh, with this increasing awareness of fake news, do you see the incidence coming down?
It's quite the opposite. The incidents won't come down because there are all kinds of vested interests. Now, we did a study, I think a couple of years ago, where we tried to understand what drives people sharing. So from the most innocuous to, I think it was just after COVID, most innocuous to say, if it might help somebody. So, I have to share this magic cure for COVID. So I think there is a spectrum of people who do why they do. And I think that won't change. And in a world that is driven by likes and follows, and your standing in a society is decided by whether you're an influencer. And a lot of people think sharing news first is your standing in the society. And as long as that happens and it's a vicious cycle of likes, I don't think we'll see an end to it. But at least the silver lining is that most people are aware. While it's at large it's a behavioral issue, the awareness has grown. And with technology, I'm pretty sure while we'll still play catching up in terms of how bad actors use it, there's still hope.
Does the audience have any questions? Yes.
Hi everyone, I'm Tarun Srivastava. I'm a public awareness content creator on Instagram. Currently, I'm having around 270K followers on my Instagram. Thinking to make it as a brand because मेरा जो content account है वो मेरे नाम पर है as a Tarun Srivastava. But I'm thinking to make it a brand. Am I on a right track or not? Because my name is spreading in all the world as a Tarun Srivastava. So is it good to make it as a brand and as Jagran Fatafat, I guess the brand is. So how can I also create monetization option for me? So these are the two questions I'm asking and hope I get a very good answer from you all. Thank you.
So actually, it's a very interesting question. Do you go by your name, or should you put it like a company or an organization which is putting the content? So algorithms at the moment prefer individual contributors, right? So I mean, if you are an individual content creator, the algorithms will favor you compared to an organization or somebody more structured. So it's a call that you have to take, and I'm assuming you will grow, you will add more people, you would want more sources when you put that content, then inadvertently you'll also have to maybe register yourself as an organization and maybe start another channel, another content, another page, whatever that is. For now, I think till the time you get to a substantial level, critical mass, critical number, whatever that you think, I think it's good to go with the individual name. That's my thought. Again, do a double check, and there are more experts. I think they can also tell you more on this. But we've seen the algorithms favor both on Meta platforms and also on the Google platforms, which includes YouTube or they help individual content creators.
All right,
you so much.
that's all we have time for now. Thank you so much for taking the time.